speaker this evening, an individual who is a multi-award winning apprentice, chartered management accountant, and online educator. Here this evening to share his story with all of you in here. Please simmer down, but put your hands together for Haider Ali. Make some noise. Haider, you're right.
Thank you, everyone. Son of Pakistani immigrants, the eldest of 6 children, born and raised in the East Midlands, that's my story. I grew up in Derby, in one of the most deprived parts of the city. It was a community rich in diversity, but poor in opportunity. However, my parents never let me internalize this. They always taught me to work hard and to believe in myself, and told me that I could put anything that I put my mind to. They instilled the importance of hard work from a very early age. As a young child, I was naturally curious. I loved school, and it was my best place to fit in. However, something shifted when I went to secondary school. Because of my postcode, I was unable to attend the schools I wanted to at the time. I was placed into an Ofsted special measures state school. For context, it was once ranked bottom 3 in England. Its most recent GCSE maths and English pass rate was just 15%. Yes, 1-5. In the 5 years I was there, I had around 7 different head teachers. On top of that, I was one of only a handful of Asian students in my year group, which was a massive culture shock for me. I came from a very diverse and multicultural primary school, and suddenly I felt like a complete outsider. I became hyper-aware of the things that made me different, including my faith as a Muslim and race. I tried desperately hard to fit in, but never was quite able to. In school, it was very hard knowing that not many people looked like me. The opportunities weren't in abundance, and I had to work really hard to ensure that I could conquer the odds. After 5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, I was able to make local headlines after managing to achieve A's and A stars in my GCSEs. I became the anomaly my environment said I couldn't be. A lot of people thought I wouldn't amount to much going to that school, and that I would simply get swallowed up into the statistics. However, I was determined to prove them wrong, and I did. Those grades weren't just an achievement for me. It was a golden ticket to be able to go somewhere that actually judged me for my hard work instead of just my postcode. I was able to go to a much better sixth form after that. Suddenly, I was in a much more positive environment. I was surrounded by people who did want to work hard and did have good grades and had big dreams for themselves. I suddenly felt like I belonged again. I was able to make a diverse group of friends like I once had at primary school, and felt like I could bring my full self to school. Being in that supportive environment spurred me on even further. I was determined to work harder than I could to ensure that I could get the top grades that I needed to get into a university of my choice. After all, that was the natural next step after A-levels, right? Or so I thought until I attended a careers fair, right here in Birmingham. That's when I first learned about apprenticeships. It blew my mind that you could become qualified in your career, all whilst earning a salary and having no student debt. At the time, I was so skeptical. It sounded too good to be true, and I questioned why more people weren't doing this already. On top of that, my parents had sacrificed so much coming from Pakistan to the UK. I didn't want to let them down, and I knew that they wanted the best education for me. After lots of persuading and long chats, they were open to the idea of applying for an apprenticeship alongside university, and that's exactly what I did. On the university side, I had all the support I needed. I was able to land top university offers at places like LSE, UCL, and Warwick, which was a huge achievement for me because nobody in my neighborhood had ever been to these institutions. However, something deep inside me told me that an apprenticeship would still be a better option for me. I couldn't quite explain it because I didn't know enough at the time, but something was just telling me to go for the apprenticeship. I thought applying for apprenticeships would be just as straightforward as university. I thought if I just applied to a few, I'd be able to get several offers just like university and be able to choose from my choice. However, it wasn't, and I learned that the hard way, after receiving rejection after rejection from every single company that I applied to. I was crushed. Nothing prepared me for how low I felt during that moment. What made it worse is that I didn't really have anyone to turn to. My parents didn't work traditional corporate jobs, and my school was adamant that a university was the best route for me. It was very hard to know where to look for the extra advice that I needed to be able to land one. I was this close to giving up until one school assembly changed my life forever. The assembly was delivered by 2 apprentices at Rolls-Royce. The apprentices talked about the available opportunities for the year and were really encouraging and inspiring other people to go for the opportunities on offer. To my surprise, I learned that this engineering company had a finance apprenticeship that sounded perfect for me. I probably would have never have applied for this opportunity otherwise. So after not expecting much and brushing myself off after multiple rejections, I submitted one last application. After months of online tests, interviews, and assessment centres, I finally got given the lifeline that I needed when I got the phone call from Rolls-Royce saying I'd secured the offer. That was such a big moment for me. All those knockbacks, rejections, and failures that I learned from finally amounted to something tangible that I could hold in my hand. Fast forward to results day, and I managed to achieve my dream grades for A-levels, achieving a clean sweep of A's and A stars. It was probably 2 of the hardest years of my life, and I sacrificed a lot being able to get to that position. I didn't have a lot of support around me, and being the eldest, there was a lot of disadvantages I had to overcome to be able to get those results. I managed to get into the universities that I applied to, but followed my gut instinct with going for the apprenticeship instead. Honestly, at the time, it felt like the most scariest thing in the world. I wasn't sure what was on the other side, and I just had a gut feeling telling me to go for the apprenticeship instead. After securing the apprenticeship, I learned that I became the first Asian apprentice to ever be accepted onto that particular scheme. That's when the imposter syndrome kicked in. Am I good enough? Do I deserve to be here? Was there some kind of mistake? Despite those thoughts, I powered on and did everything I could as an apprentice. I went into all 3 of my schools to champion apprenticeships and talk about the availability of careers and options available to young people, from primary school all the way up to sixth form. I championed diversity and inclusion within my organisation to be able to give a voice to those who aren't always seen in the mainstream media. On top of that, I was juggling working, studying, and managing a social life, which was no easy feat. However, fast forward 5 years, and I've since finished my apprenticeship, qualifying as a chartered management accountant and landing a full-time role after. I also now produce content online on platforms like TikTok to reach more young people about apprenticeships. I've been able to help several young people land apprenticeships at top companies such as KPMG, BT, and Norton Rose Fulbright, which is a huge achievement for me, being able to give back to those who were once in a similar position to me. And to top it off, it's now a full circle moment being back speaking to you guys after having won one of the apprenticeship awards just 2 years ago on this very same stage. So, what message do I want you to take away? Employers in the room, I want you to realize how many young lives you can impact through apprenticeships. You can change many more lives like mine on a national scale. And you can do this by prioritizing diversity in your organization, by creating a real sense of belonging for others like me. And diversity isn't just about race. It's heavily linked with social class. A lot of the barriers I had to come weren't down simply to the color of my skin, but in fact, they were compounded by the socio-economic environment that I found myself in. And that's exactly what we need to focus on. Diversity can't be achieved without addressing the elephant in the room, social mobility. So my question to employers is, how are you using apprenticeships to tap into this diverse talent pipeline? How are you ensuring that the role models of the future are representative of the UK population, despite their circumstances? And to the apprentices in the room, you are the role models, the trailblazers, and the change makers of the future. Regardless of if you take home a trophy or not tonight, I want you to think about how proud the younger version of you would be right now if they saw you in this room. Give yourselves a round of applause. Rather than seeing yourselves as disadvantaged, I want you to focus on the advantages you have at your disposal too. All those hardships and obstacles you've overcome have made you more stronger and resilient than ever, and nobody can take that away from you. Finally, I want you to give back and leave the door open for the next person like you to walk through. Make it easier so no one has to struggle the way you did in order to get to where you are today. And that involves sharing your story. Your story is the most powerful thing that each and every one of you have in this room. Own it with pride and share it with confidence. You never know who it might inspire. Thank you very much for listening.
To Haider, such an incredible speech, an inspirational journey, and I'm sure all of us will take something away from that tonight.
Also, after winning an award 2 years ago and you're back here to inspire others and delivering such a keynote speech, you really should be proud of yourself. One more time for Haider, please. Make some noise for him.